Me. Hi. Can you hear me? Just let me know somebody. Yes and yes. Yay. Hello. I feel like I haven't been with all of you in such a long time. I don't know why, but I think my last session was on uh, the solstice. So it feels like it's been a while. Maybe it's just that a lot is going on in the world. Anyway, I'm so happy to be here with you today. It feels so good to just have this time together. And this theme is really important to me. And I think really important to all of us living in this crazy world right now. I think the entire world needs to take a nice nap. We all need a blanket and we all need to take a nap because it's just really exhausting. I think for everyone on the planet, all that we've been going through, it's like with this pandemic, I'm just launching right into this, but at first it's like a shock. And then as it goes on and goes on in these different phases and chapters, it's like the fatigue, this is very real. And yet the challenge is that as a cultural, we don't really know how to rest. We don't even know how to address or deal with this deep fatigue that so many of us feel. And so I want to explore that today. So I'm going to talk about rest and then hopefully experience deep rest, because it only means so much if it's just words. We have to have the experience and contact that place within us that knows deep rest, that is deep rest. On some level, I really think deep rest is our nature. It's who we are, and we wander from that. So I hope that, together we'll be able to touch that place together today. So welcome all of you. I'm just so happy that you're all here. It is very real. Oh, Carolyn, I'm so glad that you can be here. So nice to see you. Oh, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So if you have never come to one of my live sessions, my name is Carrie, obviously. Sometimes I see my name like on the app or something and I'm like, it's like shocking. Like, oh, is that me? It's funny how these identities that we have. Anyway, I'm a singer, a devotional singer, and I really love to study all of the different spiritual traditions in the world. They're just fascinating to me. And so I am a forever student of all of these traditions, and music is a thread that to me weaves them all together in our heart. And music is the language of the heart. And through music, I think that we can access the deep truths that all of these traditions share with the world. So we'll be doing all of that today. Is your sound, I'm not sure. I hope my sound is okay. Okay, so I'm gonna just begin with an invocation, which many of you know that I always like to do that. It's just a way that we can come together and like just take that time when we do this invocation to just intentionally say, I'm choosing to be here right now. I'm choosing to give my attention and my energy to this moment. It's like this, in parentheses, like this space that we have, the sacred time, where we can talk about what really matters, what's in our hearts, and have an experience just beyond the surface waves of our mind. So you can take this invocation time for yourself to just gather yourself here, be here, and really let everything else go. You can pick it up again when this is over, but chances are when this is over, like any experience that you give yourself to in the present moment, what you came in with will look different when you come out. So, okay, so I'm going to sing my invocation, not my invocation, but the invocation that I like to sing, 2 Sanskrit chants. The first is to my spiritual teacher, Amma, to ask for the blessings. And the other one is a very short piece from a beautiful ancient prayer, the Guru Padaka Stotram. So. If you can't see, I have an instrument right here. It's called a harmonium. And it's a drone instrument. I pump it with my left hand and I play the keys with my right hand. So that's what I'm doing down here. it's funny. Just one thing. Sometimes I burn this candle when I do these live sessions, and sometimes it just stays still. It doesn't move at all. And someone's even asked me, like, is that a real candle? Because it doesn't move at all. And today I'm just aware that it's like kind of going wild. So I think that candle needs deep rest. Seems a little active. Okay. Pixie, I thought you weren't going to be here. Oh. Snigdham Pangavidakini Bhagavati Mandasmita Srimukhi Vatsalyamritavarshini Sumaturam Sankirtanalapini Shyamangim Madhusita Sute Amritanandatmika Ishwari Om Amriteshwari Namah Om Amriteshwari Namah Om Amriteshwari Namah Tasansar Samudrata Nakaitaviyam Guru Bhakti Davyam Vairagya Samranjata Pujanakiyam Namo Sri Guru Padukakam Namo Sri Guru Padukakam Namo Sri Guru Padukakam Namo Thank you. Static sound. Is anybody else having that? Sometimes if that happens, you can exit and come back in. Hi, Jeanette. If you're having that, okay, thank you for letting me know that. Just try to exit out, X out, and then reopen the app. So Oh, I'm grateful you're here too. So today, I've done a similar sessions before. I did a session called Rest and Receive before, and today the session is Deep Rest. It's very similar, but just a slightly different angle. So as I was saying at the beginning, I think we can all relate to the fact that this is just really a crazy time and it just keeps going. And the uncertainty alone, I can only speak for myself, but I know in speaking to a lot of other people that there's a sort of universal feeling of like that just contraction inside of this uncertainty of what is happening on earth, what we're witnessing, what we're going through, and the constant need to be vigilant and to be careful and worrying and not knowing what's going to happen and just witnessing so much suffering around within and without. It's really taken a toll, and we're certainly not on the other side of this pandemic by any means. But I really do think that there will come a time when the trauma in some way of this experience will need to be addressed because we're not meant to be, in general, the human being or any being is not meant to be in a state of constant fight, flight, stress, for years on end. And obviously it's different for every person, but I would say generally, we're all kind of walking around like the boogeyman is going to jump out, don't know what's going to happen. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I see this person? Can I not? Should I, these kinds of things they take a toll because we may not be aware that we are feeling this type of vigilance or anxiety, but it's kind of like that static in the background, that I call it like an ambient angst, this white noise just in the background. And in the meantime that all of this is going on with the pandemic, there's just the usual information overload of what's happening in the world, all the other kinds of things going on. And I was listening to something the other day. I can't actually remember what it was, a podcast of some kind. And they were talking about the brain and how our brain is just, getting exposed, like getting such an overload of information more than our brain is designed to do. If you look, I was thinking as I was like scrolling on my phone at something, between the news feed and social media and all of these different things, we're constantly going from one thing to the next. And a lot of the times if you read your newsfeed or if you're reading social media, if you use it or whatever it may be, it's just one kind of upsetting image after another, and all of these things. And if it's not an upsetting image, if it's somebody else sharing something that they're happy about, sometimes that, kicks in the comparison trap, right? Which I've talked about before. So it's like this constant feeling of like having to manage all of this information and not even knowing how to process it emotionally. Never mind just needing to like cognitively understand like what it is that's going on in the world, but the emotions that we may be feeling, when I heard like a few weeks ago just about how one of the glaciers is melting so much faster than they thought in the Arctic, I kind of read that and I went by it and then I just stopped for a minute and I like felt what that meant. And I just like my heart sunk, everything sunk. I was like, what are we doing to our planet? And what kind of energy do we have anymore with everything going on to actually like feel all these things and be with all these things? It doesn't mean that we should all hide under a rock, but I think it's necessary to admit the reality of what many people are feeling in this world right now. We don't want to do like the fake positivity thing, right? Like it'll be fine, it's all going to be over and we're all like, but it's not, because we're in this predicament where our planet is calling out for our attention and for our love. And so there's a need, I think, to feel that in our heart, because that through awareness is the only way that we'll take action and change. And so I call this session Deep Rest because I feel like rest obviously has many different dimensions to it, from the grossest to the subtlest. And as I said at the very beginning, I think on some level, deep rest is actually really more of our true nature that is beyond any of the accoutrements that we put onto this person. I am this, I am that, all of that. The need to hold up all of those things can get very exhausting, and we live in this world that is so much defines our worth by how productive we are. I know I've talked about this before, but it's really something profound if you think about it. A lot of things are about how much we accomplish, how many fans, how many followers, how many likes, how many, all of these things. And it's like people are running to gather all of these things because we feel like if we don't have that, we're not good enough or won't succeed, won't be okay somehow. And so there's that constant feeling of like, I just have to take a deep breath and I have to just go, just go like a linebacker. I'm just gonna like, put my football outfit on, whatever I do. It's just like I personally feel like that sometimes. I'm like, ah. But and I don't feel like that way of being suits me. Just it doesn't suit any human being to have to be running after anything. And so I think it's just really interesting to notice within oneself, where do I find associate my worth with external things, whatever it may be, whether it's how much I've done in a day, or whether I define it by my relationships, or whether I define it by my work, by the likes that I get on my social media posts, whatever people see as the bar of being a successful, accomplished person. If we do that, then we constantly are staying busy and we're just avoiding ourselves and running from ourselves all the time. And sooner or later, that's not going to work anymore. That doesn't, and I think that's partly in a way this pandemic is forcing us, for those who wish to use it in that way, who have the luxury, honestly, to use it to turn within, because not everybody has that opportunity. It's a blessing that we actually can gather in this way to have this conversation. It's a privilege. And I think it's good to remember that, how fortunate we are that we have this opportunity to turn within, to try to look at how the compost of our life can become flowers, through our own awareness, through our own attention, through our own, responsibility, taking responsibility for our mind and our life. So I've mentioned this before as well, but Jeff Foster, who some of you know, who's a spiritual teacher in the UK, he made a connection one time between the word deep rest and depressed. It's very clear when you say those words, depressed and deep rest. It's striking. And I really agree with that, in the sense that I think a lot of the time when there is this heaviness within, or this feeling of depression, you could say, of course, there is real clinical depression, needs to be treated properly. But I'm talking about the depression that I think many people can relate to, just a feeling of something is off, of the malaise, a feeling of heaviness, especially at this time. In many ways is a desire and a longing for deep rest, because we're so tired, we've lost ourselves. And when we lose ourselves, when we abandon ourselves, when there's nobody home, that's really tiring. There's no one there. It's just like a shell of a person that is constantly running to try to grab and get this thing and do this thing. And so that is such a beautiful connection that he made, I feel, between those two words, deep rest and depressed. And that's something I reflect on a lot. Maybe when that heavy feeling is there, the longing is really to rest deeply in oneself, to come home, to return to oneself. We abandon ourselves. No one does that for us. We're the ones who do it. And so we are the ones who have to choose to come back. I want to read you what he said about, this is just a short excerpt from something he wrote about that statement. He said, "The word depressed can be spoken as deep rest. We can choose to view depression not as a mental illness, but as a state of deep rest we enter into when we are depressed, pressed down by the weight of the false self, the mask, the mind-made story of me." It's just so great. Pressed down by the weight of the false self, the mask, the mind-made story of me. I can so relate. Can't we all, in a way, relate to that? But the need to try to maintain this sort of, all of these identities that we wear is really can be psychically exhausting. Obviously, we have to, if you're in a bank, you have to be the bank teller. If you work in a restaurant, you assume the role of the waiter. I'm assuming the role of whatever I am right now. But ultimately, the truth is, we are not any of those things. We are not our roles. We're something so far beyond that. Our true nature doesn't identify with this or that. And so when we all can get to a place, I think, where we feel the heaviness of that false self, because on some level we know that that's not true. That's not who we really are. And there's a longing and a desire to reconnect with who and what we really are. And that is something that's beyond language, it's beyond words. I think it's possible to feel it through music or through deep silence, in meditation, or through connecting, deeply with another person. We can find ways to come back to that, to remember that. But that false self, it does start to feel like a heavy cloak, that weights us down. And we need to take it off, not rip it off. As you know, I'm not really into the whole kind of force the flower of your heart to open, because like Amma says, if you force a flower to open, you destroy it. So we don't need to rip anything off, but just to become aware, oh, I'm wearing this really heavy cloak, and maybe I don't have to wear it. Maybe I can just put it down. Maybe I can just let myself breathe and just exist as a being, and recognize that my worth doesn't have to do anything with how productive I am. If we're productive and pushing ourselves just because we're avoiding being with ourselves, that's just good information to have. Not anything to judge or criticize, but just it's fascinating to notice that. If we're being productive and it's arising out of a place of inspiration and joy and service and wanting to give that to the world, that has a different quality. That's not what I'm really talking about. That is a very different quality than, if we're doing something because we feel that we need to confirm this self. And I also think deep rest doesn't mean that we're just supposed to lie on the floor, or lie inert, just in repose all the time. There's a beautiful phrase, Wu Wei, from the Taoist tradition, which is sometimes translated as effortless action. And just the idea of that is, Wu Wei, when we're in the flow, in the connection with ourself, when we're in alignment or harmony with the Tao, as they would speak about it in the Taoist tradition, then the action just arises spontaneously. There's no pushing or trying to force something to happen. It's just a natural flow. And that effortless action is like arising from a state of rest. It is rest. So action and movement can be rest, or it can be dissonant. It can be not harmonious if we're doing it because we feel like, oh my God, I'm incomplete, I'm not good enough, I have to make myself better, I have to show who I am, all of that place that's coming from the mind. We all do it. So I actually think it's really important to have a sense of humor about these things, and also always to have compassion and love towards that, because it's not our fault that we feel this way and we think this way. This is like a cultural matrix that we're kind of born into, and we come into this world and immediately, right? If you get a good grade, yay! If you do something that, looks good, it's like, yay, you did it. You accomplished that. You got an A, you got this, you look pretty, you do this, right? All of these things, like messages that we're getting, like all of these external things. And of course, the parents are praising and loving and supporting the children when parents are behaving that way. But what's interesting is that when we assign happiness and success and goodness to the external things we do, and don't acknowledge that actually our inherent nature is that goodness, that original goodness, if we don't also inculcate that knowledge, then we all kind of grow up in a way in this world where we feel like I need more to be good, to be better, to be good enough. I think you all know what I'm saying. So that is a really exhausting place to be. That is a very heavy weight for any of us to have on us in this age of speed, in this culture that is telling us we always need to do more. A lot of people feel really guilty about resting, which is really interesting. I'm actually curious what your thoughts are about that, just, about the guilt around rest. Like what I'd actually love to hear what some of you think or feel about that. Just why do you think if you feel guilty for resting, or if you can relate to that, why do you think that might be? You're taught if you rest, that you're lazy. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's so pervasive. My perfectionism prevents deep rest. I definitely relate to that. Self-worth, guilty pleasure to pause and just be. Yeah, can't be lazy, right? Because no one applauds you when you rest. I will. I'll applaud you when you rest. But it's true. It's true. And it's exactly like that. It's exactly like that we get the applause. Like I was just sort of joking about before, we get that applause when it's like, you did that, you got it, you got the prize, you won, you right, all of these things. That's how our society, you know, gives us the accolades that we desire. But when has anybody ever said, you know, I'm so happy you rested today. Oh, I rested today. What did you do? I rested too. You know, what if we change the conversation instead of asking each other, you know, what did you do today? What did you accomplish today? Because immediately when we say those kinds of things, we're setting it up for that. Why don't we ask each other, you know, did you feel the sun today? Were you aware of the earth? Did you see the trees today? You know, did you enjoy drinking your water today? Did you enjoy walking today? Whatever it may be, these simple things, you know, that are just about being a human being on this earth. To me, those are the things that should be applauded if we're going to, you know, think about it that way. That is like, you know, really making the most of our humanity, is to be here on this earth and to be mindful and aware that we're on the earth, that we're in a body, you know, that the lazy thing is so fascinating. And I mean, it probably, I don't know the whole history of it, but I've been reading a little bit about, over the years, I've read different things, but just about the Industrial Revolution and like the changes that happened in society when everything became so much more focused on production and output, right? Instead of everything being kind of smaller farms or people doing different things, and people moved to urban centers, and a lot of the, you know, there was like this wave of change, you know, of production and output, and that's kind of what the world has been going on, like this kind of spinning cycle of output, output, output. But when we do that, we're not really actually even outputting from a place of fullness. We're outputting oftentimes from a place of depletion. And when we're depleted, ultimately that will catch up to us. I can tell you, I mean, for myself, many of you know that I went through a really difficult period in my life when I was very ill for 3 years. And really that experience was so challenging for me because I was so tired and I had no energy. I couldn't do anything. And I've experienced periods in my life like that at different points, of just this incredible exhaustion and feeling like I can't even get out of bed or just function in any way. And when this first happened, it was extremely difficult, not just because physically I didn't have the reserves or anything to do anything, but because my identity, I, I didn't know what was happening. I was always like this very type A person, always doing lots of things. And I defined myself by that, especially even like in my relationship with Amma, with my teacher, was always pushing, always doing service and doing this and organizing that and writing this and writing that. And then I would feel inside, okay, that makes me worthy. Maybe I'm worthy of love or something if I'm doing all of this, right? Not conscious, but underneath. So then when this whole, everything kind of fell apart and I didn't have the energy to do those things anymore, it was like, oh my God, who am I now? I'm not going to be loved anymore. I don't have anything to show for myself. I don't have anything. I'm just me. I'm just lying here and there's nothing here. It's just this body lying here and I don't have anything to do. That was the feeling. And it was such an intense time because I had to meet that. I didn't have the energy or will to run away anymore from those feelings. And so I had to sit with those feelings and I had to really be with that. And it was profoundly uncomfortable. But ultimately, it was a good thing because it's a long story, obviously. But, you know, from sitting in that place, feeling like I can't do it, I don't have the energy, and this person has nothing to give anymore. It was actually from that place that that the music came, because there was no more trying to fill anything or figure out anything or project anything. I just didn't have the energy anymore. And when I surrendered to that, it felt kind of like the soil was like being tilled, and finally, once it was like all tilled and there was not much left, then the universe was like, okay, we'll just plant some music there in that field or something. Feels like that's what happened. But I'm sharing that story in like somewhat of a dramatic fashion, although it was a bit of a dramatic experience, but only to say that a lot of the time, not only are we physically, can be physically exhausted, which is huge, but there's also the piece that when we don't feel like we're being productive in some way, about how that makes us question ourselves, our worth, and our identity, this person that we think we are, we have to question that. And ultimately, that's a really good thing, because self-inquiry is one way for us to wake up from whatever illusions we may have, about who we are and about this life, so that we can awaken, connect to what really is true. And through this pandemic, and even starting a little bit before that, I've actually had a really tough time sleeping. And so I've given a lot of thought to the subject of rest and sleep. And I know a lot of people sometimes can have trouble sleeping. And I think that I've learned and continue to learn just how important rest is. Not only rest of the body, but rest of the mind, rest of that ego, contraction, that ego that is always running around looking for something to rest that. Yoga, the word yoga in the Yoga Sutras, yoga is defined, it's spoken as yoga chitta vritti nirodha, which means yoga is the cessation of the movements of the mind. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. So that's really interesting, because basically what it's saying is that yoga is when those movements of the mind are become still. That's yoga. When there's no more of those fluctuations they're called vrittis, those movements of the mind, those thoughts. And in some ways, I would say that in a way, that's a state of deep rest. When the mind, there's no more movements in the mind. There's just that stillness, that deep stillness. That is yoga, which is union. That's a state of rest. Not feeling like I have to gain anything to be whole or subtract anything to be good, but everything as it is well and whole within itself now. That to me is a state of rest. And a state of rest, and really rest, I wouldn't say it's even really a state. It actually is our nature on some level. But if we're talking about it as a state to be in or to experience, I think it's a place of really profound self-love and acceptance. Because it's when we feel the root of that inability to rest, if you really look deeply, I think, is somewhere that feeling of I'm not good enough, or I'm estranged from my light, and I need to get all these things to be good and to have that light, to have that worth. So that seed of feeling separate from love, that seed of feeling unworthy, right, and not good enough, in some ways you could say is what propels us to run from rest, to try to run after all of these things, if that makes sense. This is just what I've found within myself. And also, we don't really live in a culture that teaches us how to really care for ourselves. Even like the wellness industry or whatever, it's like fascinating, just the pushing of products, and this is going to do it. You got to take this, you got to take this, you got to do that. And it's like, oh my God, it's an assault sometimes. But what does it really mean to take care of oneself? If you're just like pounding the supplements and pounding all of these things, but you're doing it with an attitude of aggression towards yourself, you're doing it because you feel like there's something wrong with you, you have to smash it down and improve it, then that attitude, somehow it does not seem coherent. You know what I mean? With doing these things for our wellness, to take care of ourselves. So I think that love And that compassion and care for ourselves is such an important foundation that makes all of the things we do for our wellness and for our nourishment and for our rest, it actually gives them the power, the chi, you could say, coming from that place. And I don't think that that's an easy thing, because all of these things we're talking about, to do them, to embody them, means that we need to have that courage and confidence to move against the push that's coming right from the mass consciousness, to change a different way of being, the way of rest. It's a different way of being than what we are told is good. So it requires, I think, that each of us make those questions and have those questions within ourselves about what rest is. What is rest to you? Really sit with that. Why do you avoid rest? And why do you long for rest? Why do you desire it? How do you know when you feel rested? Is rest just like sitting back and watching Netflix? Maybe sometimes it is. But does that really give you like the deep rest that you're longing for? Or is that something totally different? I don't have answers to these questions at all, but I like questions because they call something forth, from within us. But I really think that letting go of all of these shoulds that we layer on ourselves, these trips, we're always laying on ourselves. They get to be so tiring. But if you think about it, when you sleep, when you have the experience of deep, dreamless sleep, not dreaming sleep, but deep, dreamless sleep, you wake up and you say, I just slept so well. I was completely knocked out. I just slept so deeply. That's very interesting because in deep, dreamless sleep, you don't have any awareness of your body, of your mind, of anything. There's just deep, dreamless sleep, just deep rest. But yet, interestingly enough, there is some awareness, some presence that is also there throughout that deep, dreamless sleep. If there wasn't, you wouldn't know when you woke up, I slept well. Who's saying that? Who's the I that's saying that? I slept well. How do you know? How do you know you slept well? Because you weren't there. But there was something there. There was a presence there. There was an awareness of yourself. You could say it's like the witness within you. It's really fascinating. You can read, there's so many interesting readings and teachings about that idea of, I've read different things about it, but I just think it's just a fascinating thing that when we feel really refreshed, when we have that experience of deep dreamless sleep, what's so liberating about it is that we're gone. We're gone. There's not, and then interestingly also, is that as soon as we wake up and come back to consciousness, there might be a moment, when we wake up and we feel that peace, but then as soon as we're become aware of this body and this person again, our mind just shoots out and starts scanning the field for the problems, right? What was that bothering me yesterday? Oh, there it is, right, is that. Oh, I have this to do. And immediately we get hooked right away. It's hard to stay in that place. So it's fascinating to watch that, the way that our mind does that, if you know what I mean. How notice your mind, first thing in the morning, notice. Where does your mind go? Are you able to, can you stay in that kind of sacred pause, between sleep and waking? That's kind of a very fertile place. Or do you immediately, with your mind, just shoot out to, start reading your phone or, immediately thinking of all the things that are weighing on you? I just recently started not having my phone in my bedroom, which has been a game changer, actually, really good. I have a clock now, which I'm very excited about, a real clock. And I love having an actual little clock. I'd like to show it to you, but it's over there. Because it just does one thing. It just says the time. It doesn't give me news. It doesn't give me email. It doesn't give me text. It doesn't do anything. It just has this very simple function, just say the time. And there's something very relaxing about that because as soon as I see my phone, I've started noticing this, and it's just fascinating to notice these things. Sometimes I see my phone and immediately that stress response kicks in because I'm like, what's on that phone that has to be dealt with? What's on that phone that I have to read? So I completely recommend Not everybody has that relationship with their phone. Not everybody feels, wedded to their phone. Lots of people don't, but lots of people do. And I think it's important when we're talking about rest on a very practical level to take care of ourselves. And if you know that there's something in your life that immediately kind of kicks that on for you, try to shift your relationship with it little by little. The phone is an example of something that we can become slaves to it instead of a master of our phone. We become a slave to our phone. And that doesn't feel good because that creates this sort of powerlessness, and feeling of powerlessness is, that's where discipline is helpful, or that's where having, working with our mind around it. So I can say that's been really helpful for me, to just take a little bit of that space so that when I sleep, there can be more awareness of that in between time between waking and sleeping. Just noticing my mind, notice what's going on, where my mind wants to go. It's always running towards the problems. So I really want to consciously try, when I wake up, if my mind is going to run anywhere, let it run towards something nourishing or something positive. It matters. It makes a difference. It really does. And these are things that we have to work at. It's a practice. That's why they call it a practice. We're not supposed to have it all figured out now. I don't know that we're ever supposed to have it figured out, but it's something to work towards, to become more aware. So, this is a huge subject. I could keep talking about it on and on and on, but I would really much rather that we have the experience and try to drop into a little bit of place of deep rest, because honestly, everything I'm saying is just like keeping us in that little surface place. And it's good to have something to think about, plant little seeds that our mind can come back to later. But ultimately, like I was saying, I think that rest it's who we are. It's who we are when we're connected to this home, to this self, when we are caring for the self, and we connect to a place within us that is deeper than our surface level sense of ourself, if that makes sense. Going down into the ocean, there's not as many waves. And then when you get to the depths of the ocean, there's no waves like there are at the top. It's quiet, it's dark. And down in the depths of the ocean, there are bioluminescent beings who light themselves up from within. So all of these things are such beautiful teachers. In the depths, in the quiet, in the darkness, there's a chance for rejuvenation, a chance to awaken the light within. So sorry, I've missed like 1,000 different things. So I'm curious what you all think about this. And at the end, I'd really like to read a few of the reflections that I asked in my circle people to share any thoughts they might have about rest. And I'm just so moved by all of the responses that people shared, the collective wisdom around this theme. And I think it's a conversation that's worth having and worth continuing, and be good to ask one another, did you rest today? How did you rest? Why don't you take a rest? Rest is good. Lie down, take a nap. Everybody likes to nap, but if you feel the desire, resting, let's let rest become a part of our lives, and realize that that's something that we can celebrate, because it makes us more connected to ourselves, and it fulfills us in a different way, because we just stop the madness of running after everything and just be. A tree doesn't run anywhere. It just stands in the same place its entire life. I don't think a tree has FOMO. It doesn't think it's missing out. It's just happy to be where it is, rooted and shining and going through whatever it's going through, and resting right there. Nature is like such an amazing inspiration. So I know I just said lots of different things. I feel like sometimes when I do these sessions, I'm just aware that we don't have a lot of time. So I just feel like I have this little packet of seeds and I'm just like scattering it and into the soil, and maybe something will pique your interest or not. And so just planting those little seeds. So let's go and have an experience of rest together. I think there's something very beautiful about practicing rest together in community, because that energy, we create this sort of field, energetically, you could say, and that is very supportive. So this deep rest journey will have different parts to it, and we will do just a basic kind of purification like I sometimes do before my water ritual that you've done before. And then if you want to lie down, you're welcome to. If you want to sit up, whatever you want to do. In any practice I offer, I'm just offering the template. I'm guiding it, but it's always about you to do what feels right for you, to trust yourself, and to really listen to yourself. Always. It's so important. You know what you need. So, and then I'm gonna do a simple scan of the body, send love to our physical body, and move from the grossest level to those subtler levels, right? Because we have a gross body, we have a subtle body, and we have all of these different aspects of our being. So we'll move from that physical place, bringing rest to our body, to bringing rest to the other elements of ourself. So you can just get comfortable if you're not in a place where you won't be disturbed. If there's any way that, I know it's not always easy to have a place where you won't be disturbed, but if possible, that's wonderful. And just take, whatever posture you need to really be at ease for the next 40 minutes or so. Usually my sessions are 90 minutes. So of course, feel free to leave anytime. And if you do get up in the middle of the rest process, just go slow. And if you can, just not rip yourself out of it, but just to gradually emerge from it. Just take a few deep breaths, feel your body, and then you can go on. So I'm going to use this music that I used for the water ritual just for this beginning part. And I know some people like it and have asked me to record this. I haven't had a chance to record it yet, so I'll just do it right now. And we're just going to ground here, bring our energy into this moment. Let everything I said go, and let everything down to the earth, just drop that and just come back to now. Begin. So this journey is going to have a few different phases to it. So I just want to say one thing before we begin is that to have any expectation that when we meditate or do any deep rest practice, that we can close our eyes and just boom, go into that place. It does happen, but it may not be realistic, because most of the time our mind, our energy, and our attention is flying out through to sense objects and to things in the world outside. And so it takes a little bit of time, slow food, not fast food, slow to come back. We have to be patient. It's like when an airplane takes off, sometimes there's turbulence on the way up, but then smooth sailing, you have to kind of go through that a little bit, like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, I hate this, I don't want to do it, I'm hungry, I'm bored, I'm itchy, right? All of these things. That's fine. Just think about it like that. You're just taking off, just going up. Just let it be bumpy. It'll quiet down. It'll quiet down. Just stay with it. Okay. Love you all so much. Thank you so much for being with me and for your interest in this subject and your interest in being in this session. It means so much to me. All right, so wherever you may be, lying down or sitting up, you might want to sit up just for this initial part if you haven't laid down already, but again, just do what you need. Just gonna invite you to be fully present right here in this place. Wherever you are, Bring your mind and your body together. Often what causes us stress is when our mind and body are not in the same place. Body is here and mind is running. So just bring mind and body right here together. You don't have to breathe in any special way. You just become aware of breathing. This breathing is happening. And notice how you can change your breathing, but whether you change it or not, breathing happens. You are being breathed. So just let yourself be breathed in the most natural way. Feel into a sense of trust that your body knows how to breathe, even without your conscious input. It's actually an amazing thing. And before we go into the rest period, it's really important that we just come back to our own self, our own space, our own energy, especially for people who are sensitive or empathic. It's so easy to pick up other people's thoughts, the collective thoughts, the media, all of these things, they have leave imprints, right? And we have to clear them out and just say, I'm going to just be with myself. This is time just for myself. So it's so important to consciously just let go and release everything that is not ours. So we're going to begin, as I know many of you have done this with me before, just by rubbing your hands together. And just intend that for this part, we're going to just do this little purification to just let go of anything that is not yours, anything you need to let go of. So gather that heat, generate that heat, prana or that chi between your hands. Feel that, generate that. If you want, you can just pull your hands away from each other a little bit and just notice that energy there. With that energy, you're just going to sweep your body 3 times. Just imagine that you're clearing out any heaviness that doesn't belong to you, any thoughts that are weighing on you, any emotions. Just cleanse them off your body physically. And then when you're done, you can just shake your hands, just release, just feel that release, just feel letting go of that cloak, letting go of all that, any heaviness. We're going to do that again, rub our hands together. As you just do it as a mindfulness exercise, let your mind be focused on what you're doing. Feel the generation of that energy. Feel that you're just with your own energy. And then you're going to take your palms and you're just going to cover your eyes. Just rest. Just rest your eyes. Nothing needs to be seen. Just allow your eyes to rest and send good energy to yourself. Now we're going to breathe in 3 times. And every time you breathe in, you're going to imagine that any energy that is not yours, you're just isolating that energy. And when you exhale, you're just going to release it. This is something I learned from my teacher, Shakti Durga. Isolate and release. So we're going to breathe in. Isolate all the thoughts that aren't yours, all the energy and emotions, and then exhale and just release through your whole body. And again, breathe in. Isolate in your mind just any energy that's not yours, anything you don't want to carry or hold. And exhale, release through every cell. And really feel with each exhalation as you do this that you're getting lighter and clearer and coming just into your own energy. One last time, breathe in. Hold for a moment, isolate all that isn't yours. And then exhale, just release. You just feel you're coming a little closer to yourself, connecting to this body, connecting to your own energy. And now, if you're not lying down and you'd like to lie down, this is a good time to lie down and make yourself really comfortable. So now, from this place of this purification, we're going to journey into the body. We're going to begin to deeply and consciously relax this body by sending love and attention and awareness throughout it. So just get into a place that's comfortable for you. And if you are lying down, you want to be warm. Sometimes when we relax, our body gets a little bit cold. So wherever you may be, sitting or lying down, just begin by feeling that you're supported by this earth. Good Devi, Goddess Earth, Mother Earth. She's always there. And we are very connected to her, even if we don't pay attention to that. So just feel the earth beneath you. And as you breathe, you don't need to manipulate your breathing, but as you breathe, you'll notice that on the inhalation that your belly expands and on the exhalation contracts. You simply need to notice that, don't need to change it. And if you like, you can imagine that the earth is breathing with you. As you inhale, the earth, she expands. And as you exhale, she contracts just like you. Whatever you may be thinking or feeling is exactly what you're meant to be feeling and thinking right now. Just trust that there's something deeper and quieter underneath all of those thoughts. And all that's required is just love and patience. We're going to begin by connecting with this body. this beautiful physical form that sometimes causes us a lot of pain and discomfort. This body needs our love and attention. And this body has many things to share with us if we would listen to it. So feel your body on the earth. You're just going to become aware on the top of your head. If you like, you can imagine a beautiful golden sun at the top of your head. And if visualization is difficult for you, that's totally fine. You can just feel it or sense it. It's light. And allow this light to begin to pour down into your head, filling every atom, every cell with this beautiful effulgence. And the light does not push or force. This is gentle. And as that light pours through, you can feel it like a warmth of the sun shining on your face. And that beautiful light of the sun begins to soften your brow, soften your eyes. And feel your eyes resting in their sockets. Feel your jaw relax, your ears, your nose, your throat, and your mouth. Just relax. No need to hold up any face for anyone. Just soften. Just see if you can sense your original face. And we extend all of our love and gratitude to all of the sense organs, our ears, our eyes, our mouth, our tongue, for helping us to experience this world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know I don't pay attention to you enough. I don't acknowledge how much you do for me. And right now, I just want to say thank you. Feel that gratitude for these parts of you and just send that love and that appreciation from your heart. And allow that light and that warmth, which is really just love, to move down through your neck and through your throat, moving into your chest. Feel that love, feel that warmth. Going down your arms, and your arms become heavy. You don't need to hold anything right now. Your arms can just be heavy and just rest in your hands. Just let them open. They don't need to hold anything. Notice if your hands are clenched. Just let them relax. Soften the shoulders. Soften your ribs, muscles, bones. Send that light through your whole chest, into your lungs and your heart, the glands, your thyroid and thymus. Just noticing them bathed in light. And again, if you don't want to visualize that, you just sense that. Sense a feeling of gratitude. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my heart, for beating. Thank you to my lungs for breathing. Send love, send thankfulness. Allow your attention and your awareness. Our attention is a kind of love. Allow your attention to move deeper into the depths of you, into your belly, moving through your diaphragm, this incredible belly with all of these organs in it. We do so much all the time without our awareness. Just imagine this beautiful sunlight shining into your belly. And imagine that you're just telling the organs, it's okay. Thank you. You've done so much for me. You do so much for me. You can rest right now. You can rest. Just send that love to all of the organs, the stomach and the pancreas and the liver and the gallbladder, the kidneys, the intestines, the reproductive organs. And if you're missing an organ physically, it's still there energetically, and you can send it love. Send that love. Send that attention. Thank you. Fill your whole pelvic bowl with light. And allow that light to spill down your hips, down your legs, all the way out through your feet. As you notice your legs becoming heavier, no need to stand, no need to hold anything up right now. Just let them rest. Now sense every atom of this body filling with light. When we feel tension in our body, it's because there's no space. And my osteopath, he's always telling me you have to create space. Create space in your body. So wherever you may feel a place of tightness or constriction, just with all of your love and attention, just imagine more space. You may want to put your hand on a place in your body that hurts. And do it with the intention that you want to acknowledge that place. When we're hurt, we need attention. We need acknowledgement, understanding. We don't need to be told we're doing something wrong. We need that witnessing. So just bring your own attention to any place that may be hurting. You can tell that place, I'm sorry. If I've neglected you, I'm sorry. If I've ignored you, I haven't listened to you, I'm here. Now I'm here. And imagine this field of love that is being generated through all of us doing this rest practice. It creates this love, this peace, and allow that to just wash through you. Know that it's okay to be with your body, to connect with your body. And if at any time it feels uncomfortable to be with your body, just open your eyes Look around the room. Put your hand on your body. So just imagine that your whole body, that all of the organs, that all of the muscles and bones are just in a place of rest. Even if you don't feel it, just imagine that. Deep rest. Whatever may be happening for you, whatever your experience may be, see if you can just be with it without any judgment, without telling yourself that it should be different. Just be with this body and with this mind. Now feeling your body in a more restful place, even if it isn't yet, give it time. We're going to move to the subtler levels of our being because we also have an energy body. So I'm just going to chant the sounds of the chakras, the bija mantras, the bija sounds that activate and cleanse and purify this part of our energy body. So you can just receive those sounds. There's nothing you need to do, but just allow yourself to just keep relaxing, resting, and coming back into this moment. means wheel. You can imagine that these wheels of energy are becoming harmonious. And you can imagine that through the sound of the Bija mantra, they're being cleansed and purified, almost like a flower is cleansing each chakra. You can imagine a flower going around and cleansing it, or beautiful light. Lam, 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 lam. Vam, 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 vam. Ram, 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 ram. Yum, 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 yum. Hum, 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 hum. Call in the energy of healing, whatever that means to you, whatever is for your highest good, to help you rest more deeply, to bring healing and harmony wherever it's needed. Nasa, sa, se, so, dasa, sa, se, so, all on the earth and the sun, the moon, infinity, shine their light on us. Ramadasa is a mantra for healing. And when we're in a state of rest and receptivity, that healing energy can be felt and be experienced more easily. So give yourself the permission of your own mind, as Amma says, to experience healing in any dimension of your being, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, wherever light is needed. Maybe you don't even know where it's needed, and that's fine. The light knows. Just receive this mantra for healing. When our mind quiets down, when there's more space in our mind, there's more space in our body. Feel and sense more space, more of a gap between thoughts. The medicine Buddha, his name is Bekensei. He is the great pain eliminator. He's the great healer from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And he heals not only our ailments, our pains, but he heals the root of all of our pain, which is the ignorance of who we truly are. We are much more than just this body and just this mind. Something much deeper, much more spacious and quiet. So for this final part of the journey, I'm going to just call upon the medicine Buddha, these different healing mantras, with the prayer that the medicine Buddha may bring that nectar, that healing medicine to any of the places within all of us that are hurting, and to the root of any of those problems, so that we can see ourselves more clearly, see who we really are. Teatam Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Ramsa Samudagate Soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Ramsa Samudagate Soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Has a samuragate soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Has a samuragate soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Ramsa Samudagate Soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Ramsa Samudagate Soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Has a samuragate soham Tiyata Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Has a samuragate soham Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Om Bakanze Bakanze Mahabakanze Om Bakanze Bakanze Om Devam Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Raja Samundate Soha Devam Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Raja Samundate Soha Devam Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Raja Samundate Soha Theodam Bekanze Bekanze Mahabekanze Raja Samundate Soha. Rest and trust are very deeply connected. The more that we rest in our being, the more that we can trust life. Trust and feel that everything is okay right here, right now. Even in the mess of it, it's okay. I want to read you this beautiful quote from Robert Adams that I may have shared before. The power that knows the way will take care of you. The one who makes the sunshine, the grass grow, the apples grow perfectly on apple trees. The food that sustains us, nourishes us. Everything has been lovingly provided for us. Have faith. Trust the power that knows the way. This is a first step to have total faith and total trust in the infinite, the one. You may call this God if you want to. Makes no difference what you call it. It is within you. It is without you. It is everywhere. And here is a much simpler way of saying it. From Macrina Weirdeker, such a beautiful little poem. Like a wildflower in God's care, I put my worries away, trusting the one who holds me. Like a wildflower in God's care, I put my worries away, trusting the one who holds me. When we turn our own attention back towards ourselves, when we hold ourselves with that love and with that presence, awareness itself is an amazing healer. We don't actually have to make anything happen. It just happens. And the knots untie on their own, not because we're trying to force them to untie. If you're lying down, begin to bring your awareness back into your physical body. Be feeling this body on the bed or the couch or the ground or the chair. Becoming aware of your feet and your legs, your arms and your hands, and your beautiful face. And whatever your experience, just allow yourself to connect to the feeling of appreciation and gratefulness for this time that you've given to yourself to return to yourself. Rest is always here, it's always within us. The deeper we go under the surface waves into the depths of the ocean of our being, the easier it is to connect with that deep rest. So may we all let go of these mass hypnosis that tells us rest is wrong or bad, and embrace a new way of living, a new way of being that honors rest. Rest by loving ourselves, by trusting ourselves, by listening inwardly, and letting go of the need to push and force all the time, to allow things to happen. So we're just going to offer all the goodness, the love, and the rest into the world by chanting Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu 9 times. We just ask that any goodness that was generated during this time, that it benefit the whole world, this world that is really hurting and in need of love and in need of prayers. May that goodness spill out from all of us here and somehow impact this entire planet, which I believe it does. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta Sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha 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 Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti. 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 Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Peace. Peace. Thank you so much. I went a little over time. So sorry. It's really hard to do these things fast. You know, it takes time. It takes time to undo the layers, you know. Gotta go slow. So I invite you to go slow. Don't let this deep rest just be something that we just barely scratched the surface of in this hour and a half, but let it extend. You know, whenever you do meditation or practice of some kind, it's good to maintain the energy afterwards. So you don't always want to just talk afterwards or go do something, but just hold up, keep that energy close for a little while. Let that energy cultivate and move in you. So I really, really wanted to share a few of the reflections that people in my circle wrote in the circle because they're just so beautiful. And I know I've gone over time, but I just feel that I have to share these. Some of these reflections. So anyone, please feel free to leave, of course, anytime. But you too will be really moved by these words. So as I said, I asked in my circle, just, what does rest mean to you? What's your relationship to rest? And I'm just so touched by these responses that I want to share some of them with you, because I'm here, I'm sitting in this role, I'm doing this, but it's not about, it's a collective experience, we all have wisdom, we all know about these things, and so I want to share other people's voices. So let's see. Maria, rest means allowing peace in myself so that I may find peace in the world. My relationship to rest is one fought with resistance, as it means I have to allow myself to feel, to be okay with the silence, to trust in myself, to overcome my distrust in the world and in myself. Rest means I can be still moment by moment, breathing calmly as I allow the warm flutterings of love and light into my spacious heart. That's just so beautiful. And I really resonate with that. And it's just so true that to rest means we have to allow ourselves to feel. And really, a lot of times we don't want to feel. So we avoid rest. But that's where I think it's so important to realize we don't have to be afraid of our feelings. We don't have to be afraid of ourselves. If we just show up, pay attention, and be with ourselves, we realize that this being is in need of love and attention. We don't need to push it away or be afraid of it. So that's something else that I think is really important about rest, what Maria said about that we have to contact our feelings. Sometimes to get to a place of rest, like I was saying, we have to go through that choppiness, that turbulence of those thoughts and churning of our mind and emotions that we don't want to feel to get to that quiet. But if we can just stay the course with it, inevitably there's like a settling that happens. Ellen, rest comes more and more into my life as I'm learning deeper to surrender, to keep allowing all that is here in the present moment. Becoming more present and following the flow of life brings more rest, more ease into life. Trust in God, Ram, infinite intelligence, the divine, the one, or whatever name comes to mind, is bringing more peace, rest, and wonder into life. Compassion and more love for self also brings more rest and peace in my life. To learn to let go, not working towards an imaginary future self, and telling myself that I'll be good enough when I get there. Bingo! So true. How can we rest if we always think we're only going to be good enough later? Once I do this, once I get that, once that happens, then I'll love myself, then I'll be good, then I'll rest. Amma says, if we wait for the waves in the ocean to stop before we go swimming, well, we're never going to go swimming. Just a few more. I love these. Are you enjoying this? I don't know. I like to hear them being read out loud because it just makes it more real. Richard, going for a walk in a forest, sitting among the clover, watching the birds are some favorite moments that allow me to be one with creation. Seeing the leaves change, feeling the wind blow on my face, listening to the rain fall, all connect me to earth and ground me in a way that brings both thankfulness and concern. My favorite spiritual practice is to sit in fields of flowers while bees move from flower to flower in delight. I've never felt such calm before. These are all just absolutely beautiful. I mean, I feel like I'm taking up too much time because I have them all written here. I could just keep reading them to you and I'll stop. and I don't want to stop because I want you to hear them, but I will stop. They're in my circle. If you come to the circle, I can actually post them all and all of them in one place so you can see them because they're just so beautiful. And I invite anybody to continue to reflect on this theme and to share your thoughts about it, because I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. And the more that we talk about it, the more it becomes normalized. Instead of something taboo or weird or wrong, rest becomes something natural that's part and parcel of our life. The only way to change the culture is to change it, because there's no such thing really as a society. It's just a bunch of individuals, just like a forest is just a bunch of trees. So one by one, we make the change by changing the way we live and the way we think. So thank you so much for your time. I can't believe I've kept you here this long. Well, I haven't kept you, but I've been here this long, and thank you for being with me. I wanted to tell you that I'm going to be offering a workshop on the app. I haven't done a workshop before. I'm sure you've seen that there's workshops, and I had a number of different things that I wanted to do to try as a workshop. And what I decided to offer with the app, also decided would be a good one to start with, is called the subtle body, which may seem weird. You may think, why? Or do you want to offer a program on the subtle body? Well, the reason, first of all, what does that mean? As I was saying in this session, we're multidimensional beings. So we have a physical body, but we also have many other layers to our being. We're not just this. We're not just mud and bone and blood. We're much more. We have many different layers to our being. And this is something that I think is totally fascinating. And I've been studying and learning about this my whole life from many different perspectives, from the perspective of healing and spirituality, creativity. They all intersect. And so what I'm hoping to explore in this workshop, which will be 3 hours, is to look more at these other dimensions of our being, these deeper dimensions of our being, and as well as the field of bioscience. There's a lot of emerging science around how we have these biofields, not bioscience, biofields, that actually we have these energy bodies that can be measured. Our brain waves, our heart rhythms, these can be measured, but energy can also be measured. And there's just so many fascinating things happening in the world now where ancient wisdom and modern science are kind of coming together. When you look at the quantum physics teachings and how they intersect with a lot of what the sages from all spiritual traditions talked about, it's really fascinating. And I think that having a greater understanding of ourselves as not just a physical being, but as also a being that has energy and that has deeper layers to ourselves, subtler levels to ourselves, can help us to live with more of a sense of reverence for this person. It's not to just study it just because it's fascinating, but it's actually recognizing that our thoughts, our emotions, our energy affects the whole world, because we're not just isolated islands, living in a little box. We're part of a greater ecosystem and a greater whole. And something that I've really learned from many different teachers of mine, but particularly the Mamos, who many of you know, the Tayuna shamans who I've studied with for a while now, they always emphasize the importance of cleansing the energy field and being aware of our emotions and our thoughts, because they affect the earth. And so anyway, I don't want to go too far into it, but this is what the workshop will explore. We'll be looking particularly in depth at the koshas, which are the yogic sheaths. It's a really beautiful, fascinating system that has its roots in the Taittiriya Upanishad, very ancient Vedic text, that first spoke about this, about the different layers of our being. Try to understand that better, how to nurture and care for these layers of our being. And then what does that have to do? How does that connect with what we're finding out from different sciences? And then how do we tend to this energy field? What are healing tools that we can use to care for the subtle energies, whatever you call it, prana, chi, there's lots of names for it. So that's what we'll be exploring. Also how sound and mantra and other vibrational tools can help with that, since sound is the realm that I love, and sound is vibration. It can really be used as a healing tool. So they haven't put it up yet, but I'm sure it'll be up in the next couple of days. And it's not free, unlike this, it's $45 US dollars. But of course, I'll keep doing live sessions. But I think there's a benefit to doing a workshop, because in these live sessions, which I love doing, anybody can just drop in at any time. So it's harder to create, a container because people are coming in and out. Whereas when people are choosing to be at a workshop for a set amount of time, we can really all go deep together, committing to being there for that time. So that's what that will be. So you can always send me a message if you have any questions. And thank you. Thank you so much for your donations. Thank you for your, I'm not sure about that, Michelle. I haven't, oh, sorry, my mind is like going in a million directions. I'm just reading. I am recording my Medicine Buddha. Actually, Andy Hobson, beloved Andy Hobson, and I are working on a version of that. I don't have that experience recorded, but in my course that I'm working on, there will be a session on deep rest. So there'll be something like that. And oh, Andy, I know. I think he'll be back soon, hopefully, with his live sessions. Anyway, thank you so much. We've been here for almost 2 hours, almost.